Hi there and welcome to another video from Max Revs. My Porsche Cayman is high mileage and has been the catalyst for some spirited driving, road trips, track days and new friendships. My Porsche Cayman has reignited my love of driving. There is simply no better car for me. Now I'd like to add one more in if I may, and that is my Porsche Cayman is a Menopause, and we'll discuss that later. So I said in the last video there was no messing about on this channel. We're going to get straight into it, the male midlife crisis. I'm going to break this topic down into 3 videos, this being part 1. I'd like to define my definition of the male midlife crisis. In part 2, we'll kind of go over your thoughts and my thoughts on how to sort of deal with the midlife crisis. And then in part 3, we can talk about strategies you can embark on to deal with your midlife crisis. Right, so I'm going to try to do my best to discuss the topic of the male midlife crisis with you, and here goes. First of all, I really don't like the name, especially the word crisis. To me, it implies something that's awful. We have to do something immediately to rectify this issue. And to me, that's not at all what the midlife crisis is. The human mind is very difficult to diagnose. We don't just plug in an OBD2 reader, press a few buttons. Oh, look, I've got a few fault codes as to why I'm feeling depressed. Oh, and the fix is I've just got to buy a few new parts. Oh, happy days, okay? The human mind is not so simple. We can't do that. Philosophers will actually say it's very difficult to use the human mind to diagnose the human mind, but let's not go there. We spend a lot of time with our Porsche Caymans talking about the 8-year service, the 10-year service, when we change the serpentine belt, transmission fluid, and we'll have a whole book of how to look after our car, what to do every year. We don't do the same for ourselves. So this is why I would say the way to think about the midlife crisis is to think about the fact that your body, your mind has got to a particular stage, and we're just going to go through a major service interval on the car, or should I say on our minds and on our bodies. The age of 70 is when awful things can happen, and it can even happen before that. I don't want to really dwell on the negatives, but there are a number of reasons why your life could be cut short even before 70. So I think 35 is the kind of the standard age when men can kind of go through sort of symptoms related to the midlife crisis. It's a natural process that you go through when you kind of hit about 35, where you kind of call into question your life so far. We spend so much effort on our cars, regular annual MOTs in the UK. I'm not sure in the US if you have to regularly inspect your car with a garage every year. I'm not talking about Porsche inspections. In the UK, the government mandates if your car is over 3 years old, you need an annual inspection to ensure the roadworthiness of your car. How often do we take our bodies in for an annual inspection, even an inspection every 5 years or every decade? We generally just go in when we're broke, i.e. we go to see the doctor when we've got a problem. It's the car equivalent of your coolant hoses just dumping all their fluid on the street, your tyres being bald, your wheel alignment being so bad there are vibrations through the steering wheel. I did kind of call out the comment that my Porsche Cayman is a menopause. What I'd like to kind of just discuss is some people do believe in men having a menopause, and I'd like to just kind of discuss that very quickly and just say, to me, the male midlife crisis is a psychological issue which can have physical impacts, whereas a male menopause is more of a physiological condition which can have psychological impact. As you age, you can get a reduction in your testosterone levels, which can have impacts on your mood and all sorts of stuff. But, you know, dropping testosterone levels, I would say, are more physiological aspects that generally can happen after 35. So maybe that's 40 plus or 45 onwards. So that's how I break down the difference between the male midlife crisis, it's psychological with physical aspects, versus more kind of physiological driven aspects like reducing testosterone levels, which can happen later in life on average. The school, the education system doesn't prepare us with dealing with our minds. It's something that we just evolve with, and it's a very messy process actually to find out how to deal with your own mind, let alone kind of have a discussion with another male with regards to how you're feeling. What is that language? Wheel alignment, we've got toe, camber, we've got the kind of terminology in discussing with that. You know, how do we discuss? What's the terminology for our brains as opposed to I'm feeling a bit crap today, I'm a bit depressed. We're very badly and poorly equipped in general society in dealing with the male midlife crisis. Now, in our society, the definition of a successful man is hugely driven by the media. There were so many adverts I was programmed with as a kid. The Old Spice advert, you see a strong male on a surfboard. Even the Hulk, I think if I'm going to try and analyse the Hulk, you had David Banner, mild-mannered guy. When he got angry, he turned into the Hulk. And it's amazing that David Banner, the average man, couldn't solve any of his problems. But when he transformed into the Hulk, who didn't speak, by the way, I think at its best he grunted, the huge physique of the Hulk, he just fixed his problems with his fists and his raw power. He didn't even have to speak. So I think psychologically we're all programmed that a successful man is well off, potentially has a good looking wife, loads of money, a great house, a great car, a great physique, and also hair. The midlife crisis is a period where you may actually lose your hair, you could become bald, or you may already be bald. You may lose your physical physique. In the newspaper, I was just reading this thing which had a very trim male six-pack, and it said, how to beat the midlife bulge. Now, these are things that naturally happen to us as we age. It's worth pointing out very wealthy men have gone through a midlife crisis and have issues. Money is not the cause of a midlife crisis, and money is not the way to fix a midlife crisis. Another way I would say to define the midlife crisis, it's the coming of age and the passing of youth. My father passed away 10 years ago, so I was about 38, 39 then. And I think when that happens, it does hit you. It didn't hit me at the time though, actually, it was more after. We're not immortal. We are going to pass away. And all these thoughts of the midlife crisis are, well, given the fact I'm going to pass away at some point, do I believe I've spent sufficiently good time with my life? The fact I'm still capable, I've got my body, I've got my mental kind of powers. Am I making good use of my time? And if I'm not making good use of my time, how could I make better use of my time? So I'd probably say during the first half of our life, up until the age of 35, us as men are generally concerned with the outer us. That is, we have to learn something, we've got to get a job, we've got to earn some income, we've got to move away from our parents, get our own property, find a partner, and potentially have kids. So these are all things that I call outer us things. They're labels, they're achievements. They're all about us progressing through the material Western world that we live in. And there's nothing wrong with that. Without a home, without a job, we're not going to get very far in life. So that's fine. But I think the midlife crisis period at 35 is where we say to ourselves, well, what about the inner us? What does it mean to be me? What are my goals? What are things that I want to achieve given the fact that life is finite? And have I really structured my life around myself? I can't remember when in my life this exactly happened, but I certainly did have my Cayman, my 987 Gen 2. My wife just said it was so great to be with me because I reflected the man that she married a lot more than maybe the miserable person I had been prior to kind of getting back into cars and hobbies and meeting other people. So that's another way of saying by being the best version of me was also best for my family, my children, and my wife. The midlife crisis is just to say it's your way of dealing with finding your inner truth. Who do you want to be? Who do you want to become? How far have you reached that journey? And if you haven't reached who you want to become very well so far, well, there are things that you can do to redirect your life. One of the great outcomes of having over 10 different jobs so far in my life, I was freelance for a while, is that I've kind of encountered so many different men. And there was one guy who was kind of quite depressed at the time, going through a midlife crisis of his own. And something very powerful he said to me, and I'll try and kind of phrase it as best as I can remember it. He said to me, I'm doing everything that I'm doing right now in my life for my family, for the benefit of my wife and kids. However, everything that I'm doing, I feel is pushing them further away from me. And I stopped for a moment. And even now, just, hearing him say that, I remember who it was. He was effectively working long hours in a job that he didn't like, but he was doing it for the benefit of his family. His wife was saying to him, why are you working such long hours? I just need you at home. The children need you at home. Why are you just off swanning off, even going out for drinks after work? And he would say to me, look, the job market's not great now. I go out for drinks after work to be part of the team. I don't want people to think I'm not a team player. And if they make layoffs, I feel by going out with people after work and forging relationships, I'm less likely to be laid off. So he was spending time doing long hours at work, going out after work occasionally with other colleagues for drinks, which he may not have been actually enjoying himself, but he was doing this to kind of keep his job and be secure in the knowledge that, well, if I do get laid off, I've done everything that I did in my powers to keep my job. So he may not have been going home early. However, everything that he was doing for his wife and his family was effectively pushing him further apart. When my second child was born, I quit that job because it wasn't very good for my mental health. And actually, as a process of quitting, they offered me 50% extra money, which I was blown away with at the time. Probably shows how underpaid I was as well at the time. And I remember phoning up my wife saying, I've just quit, but they've offered me 50% extra money. And believe me, that would have been great money. What should I do? And my wife just said, you can tell them to fuck off. Okay. Credit to my wife. Our kids were young at the time. We just had a second child. So I did exactly what my wife said. I quit that job and I went looking for a lower paid job. I definitely sacrificed my career. I did not make that a priority in my life. And maybe you could argue that's why I'm not really as well off as I could be. But hey, you know, I'm still married. I've still got 2 kids. And I feel that's a real achievement for me, to be fair, because keeping a marriage and keeping it all together, it's pretty difficult. Credit to my wife. She's quite a vocal person. She's quite emotional. And she's taught me to be, over the long 20 odd years we've been married, she's taught me to discuss my emotions, which at the time I thought was really odd. I guess that helped me as a man try and get in touch with my inner self. I guess in the last 20 years, I didn't really have any framework that I have now in my mind in dealing with the male midlife crisis. You could just say I was walking around in the dark, bumping my head, you know, getting bruises from just bumping into corners and not knowing where I'm going, just feeling around to see if I'm going in the right direction. Often went down wrong paths, turned around, reassessed my life and kind of came back. I'd really like to discuss in future videos structure we can put, questions you can ask yourself. How are you dealing with your own midlife crisis and how you could better navigate through the journey, which I think is quite a long and complex journey, to be fair. What I think is really important for us all to acknowledge about the male midlife crisis is we often think as men we're the only ones going through this. This crisis is very unique to us. We're all very unique people. And by the age of 35, we've had very uniquely different lives up until that point in time. So I think one of the kind of the dark sides of the male midlife crisis is we say, whatever we're going through is very unique to us. There's no one else that can even understand what we're going through, and we choose not to discuss this with other men. Now that couldn't be further from the truth. Let me know in the comments below how you found this video. I'll try to do my best in editing this video, but essentially, if we're going to boil it down, the midlife crisis is just a period in time where you pause, stop. Are you where you've always wanted to be? And have you even set yourself any goals? So that's the male midlife crisis. I hope we've defined it well enough. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about this. If you've got a different definition, please let me know. I'd be so interested to see and hear what that is. And in the next video, we'll try and kind of discuss some structure we can put around this period of a man's life to help going forward and deal with the midlife crisis. Enjoying life and cars to the max, and until the next video. See ya.